No, because if that happened to me, I would have panicked immediately.
Freddie, you panic when websites ask you to make a password.
That's security pressure. Totally different situation.
Honestly, though, Brian keeps himself together longer than I remembered.
At least on the outside. Inside, I think he's already kind of overloaded before the crash even happens. And I didn't catch that the first time we read these chapters. I used to think the survival story started with the crash itself, but rereading it now, the book feels tense almost immediately.
Yeah, the author doesn't rush into the action at all. He almost traps you in the plane, and on the surface, it seems like nothing much is happening. I can see why it's difficult for some readers to get interested.
That's actually a good way to describe it.
Yeah, because technically not much is happening yet. Brian's just sitting there, but the engine's loud, the cockpit is cramped, the pilot barely talks, and the book keeps forcing you to sit in that discomfort with him.
The engine noise stressed me out almost immediately.
Same.
And the weird part is, Gary Paulsen keeps bringing it up over and over. The roaring, the vibration, the droning sound. After a while, I almost got annoyed reading it.
I think that's intentional, though.
Yeah, because Brian can't escape it either.
Exactly. And I didn't really understand that before, but now it seems like the noise becomes part of the pressure that's building in his head.
Especially once the secret starts circling back again. That whole section actually feels really realistic because Brian keeps thinking around the secret instead of directly saying everything. He'll mention it, back away from it, then come back again later.
Like his brain keeps poking the memory but doesn't actually want to stay there.
Exactly. And I didn't notice this much before, but Gary Paulsen repeats certain words constantly in these chapters. Divorce, secret. At first it just feels repetitive, but after a while it starts feeling like Brian's thoughts are stuck in a loop.
Yeah, like mentally he keeps getting pulled back into the same place no matter what he does.
And honestly, that is the conflict for a while. Before the wilderness survival even starts, Brian's already trying to survive emotionally.
That's actually kind of brutal.
And meanwhile, all of the adults around him keep talking in these cold, official words.
Visitation rights.
Lawyers, judges, court stuff.
Everything sounds technical, organized, and controlled.
But Brian experiences it emotionally instead of legally. I think that's why these chapters feel heavier rereading them now.
Because nobody's really explaining how he's supposed to feel about any of it.
Exactly.
The scene where his mom gives him the hatchet hit way harder for me this time.
That scene actually felt kind of comforting to me at first.
It did for a second, but then it got sad the longer it went on.
Why is that?
Because his mom is trying so hard to connect with him again. And Brian's trying in his own way, but everything feels awkward underneath the conversation because of what he knows.
Especially when she calls him my little scout.
Yeah, that line got me this time too.
And you can tell he still loves her. He's angry and hurt, but he still cares about her.
That's what makes it feel real. The book never turns Brian into somebody who completely stops loving his parents. Everything is messier than that. And honestly, rereading it, Gary Paulsen spends a surprising amount of time describing the hatchet itself.
Which usually means we should probably pay attention.
Yeah, authors don't usually slow down for objects unless they matter somehow.
And honestly, the hatchet already feels symbolic to me.
How so?
I think because it's one of the first things in the story that actually belongs to Brian himself. Everything else feels controlled by adults. The divorce, the flight, the court decisions, the trip north. But the hatchet becomes something he physically carries.
And later, the whole survival part becomes about what Brian himself can do.
Yeah, it's almost like the book quietly plants the idea early before it becomes important later.
I forgot how slowly the pilot's heart attack builds.
Yeah, and Brian doesn't understand what he's seeing at first.
Honestly, I didn't either.
Because the book gives you small, weird details first. The smell, the grimacing, the shoulder pain.
And Brian keeps trying to explain everything away.
Like maybe the pilot's sick, or car sick, or just old.
Which feels real because people do that when they're scared. Your brain keeps trying to force things to stay normal.
I think the book almost tricks the reader into doing the same thing.
Exactly. Even when I reread it, part of me still kept thinking maybe the pilot was going to recover somehow.
Even though we know he doesn't.
Right? Which means the writing's doing its job.
The moment Brian realizes it's actually a heart attack is still terrifying.
Especially because the book slows down instead of speeding up.
Yeah. Time almost freezes for Brian.
And Gary Paulsen keeps repeating that Brian is alone.
I didn't fully notice that before because I was too busy picturing the plane crashing. But rereading it now, it almost feels like Brian's brain can't emotionally catch up to reality yet. Like logically, he understands what happened. but emotionally, he's still lagging behind it. The world doesn't pause while he catches up, which somehow makes the whole thing scarier.
You know, one thing I really noticed this time is how messy Brian's flying is at first.
Oh, absolutely. He overcorrects constantly,
Gary Paulsen describes every little movement, pulling too hard, the nose dropping, Brian's stomach falling, the plane wobbling all over the place.
which honestly makes the scene feel believable. If Brian suddenly flew perfectly, it would feel fake immediately.
And even while panicking, he keeps trying things. That's what stood out to me most rereading these chapters. Courage in this book usually isn't somebody feeling fearless. It's being terrified but doing the hard thing anyway.
That might end up being one of the biggest ideas in the whole novel, honestly.
The radio scene stressed me out too because Brian suddenly sounds younger again.
Yeah, at first he's trying really hard to sound calm and controlled.
But once nobody answers him, he completely falls apart.
I think the emotional shift matters because it reminds you that he's still just a kid. Earlier, he's trying to sound grown up and responsible, but once he starts screaming into the radio, that act disappears and we see the kid again.
Honestly, I think Brian was already lonely before the pilot died.
Yeah,
The crash just makes the loneliness physical. Now there's literally nobody there.
Which honestly makes these opening chapters way sadder than I remembered.
The scary part to me is that the survival story hasn't even started yet.
not even close.
Right now, Brian still thinks somebody else is going to fix this somehow.
Next time, Brian starts realizing that he might have to survive completely on his own.
Yeah, that sentence alone stresses me out.